Hey legal besties, and welcome to Ladies in Law. Today, back by popular demand, we have a very special guest. If you wouldn't mind reintroducing yourself.
Oh, Jennifer Gardner, lawyer.
Lawyer extraordinaire, and I am just so excited to have you back on the podcast because the last episode that we recorded, I had so many more questions I wanted to ask you, and I was like, this could be like a 24-hour podcast episode, truly.
I think the problem, if you want to call it a problem, Michaela, is that you and I love to talk to each other.
I know, literally. I feel like my cup is so full when I am like interacting with you in any capacity, and so this is such a gift. I'm like, wait, this has to end at some point? That's crazy. Let's just record all the time.
And how fun that we get to record ourselves talking. Like we have a great excuse to record ourselves talking, and you know.
I know, that is so true. And I'm like so excited to just kind of pick your brain more because one of the things that we talked about at the end that we kind of just lamented on not having more time to really dive into was your influence amplifier method.
Yeah.
And so I would love to kind of just like first start off with like, what is that? What does it entail? And then we can kind of go through the roadmap that is this beautiful thing that you've created.
Oh, you're so sweet. It is beautiful. It's beautiful because it is a roadmap, and it's nice to have a roadmap when you're in the middle of chaos and conflict, right? Mm-hmm. We need a roadmap to navigate, and that's what it is. It's like a guide to help you keep in mind everything you can and should be doing when you're dealing with an adversary, or you're in a high stakes negotiation, or you're managing a team, or you're sticking up for yourself and confronting your superior. I mean, it applies in every communication that we have because we have to communicate to get what we want. There's no result that we get that just like automatically like lands in my lap anyway. I don't know. Maybe you're different. Maybe you're a special case, but everything.
Unfortunately not.
No?
No.
Okay, well, everything, the experts in communication will tell you that everything that we have in our lives is a function of how good we are at communicating. It's that simple.
It's funny when it's like put kind of like that because it feels so big when you don't have somewhere to go with it. And I think having a roadmap that like you have intentionally taken the time to curate and not only just keep to yourself but share with the world is something that's just so incredible. And I'm so grateful for the work that you do and for the way that you amplify your voice in this education and empower others with it. And I think sometimes when you are kind of just in your head, it can be really isolating, but then to have a roadmap means someone else needed this too, and you are not alone. And then it kind of gives you somewhere to put that energy and makes it actionable, where you don't get just like stuck in it. It's like, okay, there are these things that like I can turn to and start effectuating.
100%. And one of the things that you touched upon is that we're very isolated, especially in these moments. Like you can't just say, excuse me, let me call my office, or let me call my friend, or let me go read this book. Things are happening that are difficult that we have to deal with, especially as attorneys, but anybody in a position of responsibility and authority. Situations unfold rapidly and more rapidly these days, right? Because of technology. And so it's nice to be able to know, okay, I've covered the big points. I've done everything possible within my power in order to get the outcome that I'm here to achieve and that I want to achieve, whether it's for me or my company or my client or my law firm or whatever it is, whatever the purpose is. And that's one of the reasons why I created this and why I continue to study these ideas, because I've worked alone, essentially, as the leader and the owner of a law firm for many, many years, like over 3 decades. It's pretty crazy when I think about it. Yeah.
Wow.
And I had no idea what I was doing when I first started out. No idea. And I couldn't understand why I was successful because, I was told I wasn't any good. And I doubted myself anyway. I think we all question ourselves, especially if you're a high performer.
I could not agree more.
I want to do a great job. So these ideas help me stay on track. They help me keep in mind what benchmarks I need to be hitting in a communication, in a situation, in order to know that I've done the best possible job for me or an organization or a client or whatever it is. So I find it helpful, which is how I started collecting these ideas and inventorying them in the first place.
Yes, and I think it's so important too. I'm so glad you kind of went into like what inspired you to develop it because I think the why behind things is so important and can really resonate with people. And sometimes you don't really know that you are in need of something until you're kind of confronted with it. And so I would love to just kind of dive into all that this influence amplifier method entails.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, it's basically a way of amplifying your influence, like making sure that you're optimizing how effective that you are in the moment or as you prepare for a moment.
Wow. It's almost like a forced slowdown, you know, where sometimes you kind of touched on this where accessibility, where it's like everything can be so virtual now, you know, we don't have built-in commutes. We don't have these built-in things that kind of force you to just like take a step back because you're getting Teams messages, you're getting emails, you're getting calls, you're getting Zoom, like all of these things where it's hard to kind of just take that step back. And like you don't have to fill every second with something to be productive.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so when we are trying to amplify our influence, where is something like, where do we start? Where does that roadmap kind of like tip off?
Well, it starts with trust. It starts with trust. It starts with building trust because if nobody trusts you, you're not going to accomplish anything. You're not going to get out of square one, so to speak. So the first pillar of this method is trust. And I like to say, if you are the tool, this especially applies to attorneys. If you are the tool, then trust is the fuel. Like you're not going anywhere if no one believes you. You're not making any progress. People will just dismiss you. They'll write you off. They'll say, yeah, sure. So trust.
Wow.
Yeah.
Trust. How do you kind of go about building that trust? Because I think something for me, like when I am asking a client to show up vulnerably and share something with me, I want to be a space that they know that they will be heard and validated. And so part of that for me can kind of look like validating someone's experience, letting them know I'm here, I'm listening. I don't want them hearing me typing in the background or, you know, talking to someone, or I want them to know they have my full attention because I'm there. But I think that also building trust with the opposing counsel, with an expert, with things that kind of like also boost that can be important too.
Absolutely. Well, there's so many ways that we can do it and that we do it all the time. And some of us do it naturally, but all of us can learn how to do it. I mean, first of all, what you said, the words you said, which relates directly to the work of Brene Brown, and she studies so many different scholars and research papers that are published. I mean, that's her whole thing. And she talks about the power of vulnerability and the power of authenticity. And so just the moment you said the word vulnerability, it reminded me of her work and how important that is. We definitely want to show up and be ourselves and be vulnerable. And there's an author, I don't know if you've heard of his work, by the name of Daniel Pink.
Mm-mm.
Well, Daniel Pink says that one of the ways that the research, like all of these thought leaders are basically, they're doing their own research or they're drawing on the research that have been done by academics, right? In the fields of like social psychology and organizational psychology and cognitive psychology and neuroscience, and behavioral science, that kind of thing. So there's so much work that's been done. And so when you go and you pull a book off the shelf in the business section of your bookstore, most of these people, if they're good, is what they're doing is they're taking these ideas, they're studying them, and then they're feeding it to you in a way that you're going to find helpful. And one of the things that I found super helpful about his work is he talks about how it's one of the ways that we build trust and authority at the same time is by not, and I'm going to butcher this, but the concept is not by acting like we're full of hubris, but by being real and by being a little self-deprecating and by not being arrogant. So by being really superhuman and admitting your flaws and admitting your weaknesses and not being afraid to concede them. So one of the things that I've really resonated with in Daniel Pink's work when he talks about how to build credibility, how to build trust, and how to inspire other people to want to follow you and say yes to you, is to not be super arrogant and superior, and or at least not to present yourself in a way where you're the dominant person, right? Hubris is not your friend in these situations. And I really, when I look back at my career, especially when I was a younger lawyer, I think that one of the reasons why jurors trusted me was that I was the little guy. I was the underdog. So it sort of helps to have a little guy or gal underdog mentality in these situations for that reason, because people will trust you, and more importantly, they'll want to help you. So that's like a really important concept, right? Like I've interviewed jurors in the hallway outside after getting a verdict, like walking a client in a criminal case, and I'll ask them, what made you decide for the client, right? And I've had jurors chime in, and I'll say, well, anything we can do to help. We wanted to help. So to the extent that you are enlisting and enrolling people and wanting to help you from a vulnerable, authentic space, that really helps build trust. I remember after winning a case that was a particularly difficult case for a client, and I always poll a jury to find out what they're thinking, because I want to hear from them as human beings. It helps me when especially not just understand what happened in this case, but it helps me when I'm going into the next trial. I want to see the masks come off and the guards come down and just like mingle with the people, especially if I won the case.
Yeah.
So I had this one case where I walked my client. It was a terrible case. It was a child endangerment case where my client was like accused of abandoning her child because she was intoxicated, and she wasn't intoxicated. But in any event, there were a lot of circumstances, and I ended up acquitting her of this felony child endangerment case. Yeah, it was a really hard case, but it was a really fun case. And so, of course, in the hallway afterwards, I went to ask the jurors, can you please tell us, what they were thinking and how they were feeling about the case? And I thanked them for their verdict. And you know what they all said back to me in the hallway by the elevator at the Compton courthouse?
What?
Anything we can do to help.
Wow.
Yes, whatever we can do to help. So what this showed to me was that by being the vulnerable person and by assuming that we were not the ones in position of power, which of course we were not, we were able to be vulnerable, we were able to be real, and we were able to, I believe, build trust with those jurors and get them to trust and want to help my client. They trusted me and they trusted my client through me, and they wanted to help her. And she testified too, by the way. Yeah.
Really?
Of course. Every single criminal case I ever had, my client went on the stand and told the story of what happened. And I never lost a criminal case.
Jennifer, that's incredible.
Yeah. And that is because the clients took the stand to tell their story. Yeah, 100%.
I think that there's something that we forget about just like leaning into being human, the human aspect. And I think so often, like the not leaning into hubris, right? Where it's kind of like, I don't want to talk down. I don't want to belittle. I don't ever want, I want to be on the same playing field when I'm talking to a jury. I think sometimes I'll hear some attorneys, and everyone has their own style, but we'll be like, oh, well, can you make that make sense for the jury? And it's like, well, I don't want to belittle anybody's intelligence. We all come from very different backgrounds. We all have very different strengths. I am sure many of these jurors have a knowledge bank that I could not even tap into. And I want to be able to just kind of speak on that human level, and so the fact that you take the time after, and the fact that you take the time during the trial to just build that trust and build that human level first, I think is something that this profession could lean into a lot more.
100%. And I mean, for me at least, I always have this sense of I'm not good enough. I'm not doing a good enough job. I am powerless. But having that posture is something that has actually worked to my advantage, because the research shows that when you assume and you come from a place of you are not the one in the position of power, or you are the actual underdog in the case, people really resonate with that. And if you're able to do a lot of other things, which some of us do naturally and all of us can learn, we're naturally going to be building trust and credibility and authority, and people will want to help us. So it's sort of an underdog approach to lawyering, which I've naturally adopted and been able to really make the best out of. And it works.
Yeah, I think that it's so interesting because I feel like I'm kind of just like putting pieces together, where I feel like some of like the leaders that I respect the most are the vulnerable ones and the transparent ones that say they don't have all the answers.
Yes.
You know, because who does? And so I think when there's no posturing, it's so important, because it's like, you know, I don't know that, but I will find the answer. And that allows me to show up in the same way, because I don't feel like I have to have all of the answers or pretend that I do and then go do research on the side after to try and find it. I get to just show up as I am and know that I can continue to learn. And I think that there's so much more strength and better advocacy in that, where it's like, I don't have all the answers right now, but I'm going to get the answers that I can.
I agree. I totally agree. And I think it's much more effective than acting like you're trying to win a popularity contest by being most likable. I had a situation the other day where a lawyer and I were on the record in court, and he was so obviously pandering to the judge's likability, openness. I don't even know how to describe it. He was trying too hard to be liked. It was so obvious. I'll give an example. He was just trying to be super folksy. If you overdo it, I'll give an example in a second, but this showed me that even though likability is really important, they have to like us for them to want to do business with us or say yes to us. Likability is huge, super important, but you can overdo it also. And that's why I feel like being like the vulnerable underdog is more effective, especially for women, where the more competent we show up, the more, or the less, I should say, people like and trust us, and the more resentment they have towards us. And I think we might have talked about this at the last session, but there's this doctrine called the pratfall effect, which is that people in positions of higher authority, the higher your prestige and your status, and, you know, the more that you've achieved, other people are likely to distrust you. And one of the ways that you're able to overcome that is by being human, by making mistakes, by making small blunders, for example. This is shown to be really super effective. It's really important for women to know this.
Wow. I can resonate with that so much. And so with this influence amplifier method, we have building trust, and how that kind of goes hand in hand with the next phase of just like having credibility, right?
Yes, 100%. I mean, trust is credibility. I like to say, if you are the tool, which you are if you're a lawyer, then trust is the fuel. Trust is the fuel. You're not going anywhere unless people trust you.
Yes. And so once we kind of have built that trust and we have the credibility, what comes next? Like what is the next thing that we want to make sure that we're being intentional about?
You want to be intentional about your presence, your physical presence, your emotional presence when you're preparing. Like a lot of people, they're so up in their heads. And I think last time we talked about the big no's. So I like to say that it's really important to ground yourself and tune into yourself and get clear and really focused on the essence of what it is you're trying to achieve in any communication, whether it's an email or it's a deposition or it's a negotiation or it's a court appearance, or it's even if it's a client call or a call to the other side, to your adversary. What so many professionals just don't know, and I certainly didn't know it either until recently, but how we are emotionally when we enter into a communication is going to have a direct impact on other people. I like to say vibes are real. Vibes are not like this California woo-woo thing, you know, no bad vibes, man. Vibes are real. You're laughing, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
I Could not agree more. I believe in vibes so much, and just like energy is palpable.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yes. And I do think that sometimes vibes get written off.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, not good vibes. And it's like, no, like it's real. Like your presence, like you have a certain energy and like aura almost, where it's just kind of like, is it inviting? Are you inviting people into this space? Are you closed off?
100%. And there's a neurological explanation for this too, which is...
What is it?
Well, they're called mirror neurons that fire in our brain when we're in a certain feeling state and other people feel it. And that relates to the concept of synchrony. Brains synchronize, and emotions, the emotional states of the communicator and the listener, the speaker and the listener, they synchronize. Wow. It's fascinating, right?
It's fascinating because I think I can feel it. I mean, like the first time I met you, I instantaneously felt like there was just this like level of understanding, where it just kind of like, I felt like we vibed really well and we could talk for hours. And I think that there's certain people you meet where you have that, and others where it's just kind of like, where you just kind of listen to like the environment almost of just like what's being created within that space.
I totally agree. And so much of how I approach any communication is very intentionally by preparing myself, by being present, and by knowing how I want the other person to feel, and then projecting that emotion or the emotions that I need to feel so that I can maximize the chances that they will feel that too. It's very deliberate. It's very deliberate. So I have a horse, right? And so I keep him in this amazing property. It's 10.5 acres. And what I love about it is, unlike a lot of barns in the big city, there's other people who have horses there, but we're not on top of each other, unlike a lot of other barns in the big city. And so there are a lot of people that I don't know. And horse people can be very sensitive. They get along better with animals than they do with other humans. And so how I have built relationships, especially with new people at the barn, is I'm very intentional about what I'm projecting when I'm walking down the aisles or I'm passing them. Like I practice intentionally projecting a certain feeling or emotion to see how it impacts them, and it works every time. It's practice.
No way.
We can, and these people are very sensitive. So it's funny, like I got there the other day and there was something that had happened. I don't remember what it was, but some kind of phone call. I got off out of my car when I arrived, and I was like kind of pissed, and someone came up to me and they said, "Are you okay?" Like they can feel it. Think about it. How often does somebody say to you, "Are you okay? Are you stressed out? Are you this or you that?" It's like our emotional states are being transmitted. We are transmitters of our emotional states constantly, whether we're aware of it or not. So get aware of it. So walk into that courtroom, right? Or I can't tell you, like, I had a particularly rough couple of weeks because of the litigation that I'm doing. And I said to a friend of mine, I feel like 50% of my practice is practicing emotional regulation, because how I respond in these situations, whether it's to an adversary or a client or a court, is 100% within my control. And how I respond as the leader in the situation is going to have a direct impact on the situation. And part of my MO is I have to manage the conflict, because I'm not on a contingency here. I have people that are paying me. I'm taking food off their table to represent them in a life impacting situation. And they can't afford for our dispute to escalate out of control because of something that I said or did. So I'm aware of my presence 100% of the time. It's part of my job, not just in a courtroom, but in every aspect of what I'm doing, whether I'm writing an email. I cannot tell you how many times I'll write an email. I will schedule it and I'll come back and review it before I hit send, and I'll delete it or I will modify it, because how that is read, how it comes across, the tone that I'm using, which, by the way, I do not delegate to chatbots or large language models. The tone that I am using is a very deliberate one that impacts my choice of words. And it's so important. So that relates to the concept of presence and mirror neurons, and we can get further into synchrony, but all this stuff is so amazing. We cannot be on autopilot with any of this if we want to be next level.
I resonate with everything you're saying so much because I think that these are things that I do in my practice, but I don't always have the words to explain it. But I do that exact same thing where I do like versions of an email or version like where I there's weight behind the job that we are doing. You know, and our work directly impacts someone's life. And I never want to forget that. And I also am very intentional about the words that I use in interactions with people, in wanting to create a safe and welcoming environment for those that I'm around, and also in my emails. And so I love that you said not using chat, because it's like I don't ever want to take the human aspect out of my words. And I want to intentionally curate it and be intentional about words that have weight. They just do. And so I think, you know, like I never want to respond out of I mean, I have gotten emails where I get angry. I do not appreciate the tone of the email. I don't appreciate the way that they are talking down to me, and things where it's like, I know you know that I'm the attorney and you just called me the assistant. Like I have talked to you so many times. Like things where I just like can get riled up, you know, where I'm like, this is disrespectful. And I'm like, but you know what? I can control my reaction. I can control, like I always want to operate in a way that I respect. I want to look in the mirror. I have me for life. I am my longest commitment, you know, and I want to be proud of who I am. And so I always want to act in accordance with that. You know?
Yes. Okay, can we jump around?
Yes, please.
All righty, I'm going to jump around. I'm going to talk about radical accountability.
Let's do it.
I don't think we just have to be accountable for our clients and their role, whether they're a plaintiff or defendant, whatever went wrong. Okay, so I don't do plaintiff's work and I don't do criminal defense anymore. I do complex business cases, and it's basically two scorpions in a bottle. And the question of who went to the courthouse first is the scorpion who hissed first, right? So you got two scorpions fighting with each other in a bottle. It's basically, that's my work. I am all about accountability, not just for my clients, but for me. And so when I am less than perfect, when I get something wrong, when I make a mistake, like something I'm relating to that you said a moment ago, when I don't know the answer to something, I take responsibility and I'm completely accountable for it. And I think that there's a lot of that that's missing. And that's one of the reasons why it's easy to get pissed off at our colleagues that we're opposing, because there's so little of that going on out there. Not just their clients, not just their clients who don't want to take responsibility and accountability, but the lawyers. And even if you're opposing somebody, which I am all day long, every day, their trust, their credibility with me and how much accountability they take. And I'm sorry, but I think it's possible to have accountability over mistakes that we might make or things that we might have misstated or weaknesses in our case. There's still going to be plus sides, right? But that is going to just take you a lot farther than if you pretend that it isn't happening.
I cannot agree more.
Yeah. I know we're jumping around.
No, I love it. I think that's what's so fun about conversations, where it's kind of like, well, I mean, something that is said can be like, oh my gosh, yes. And that makes me think of this. Like, I love that kind of holistic type of just conversation, because I think something about just like something that you and I have discussed is more so having just like this proactive approach to litigating, you know, where it's kind of just like, I think, and this is me jumping around, but with just like storytelling and like the framing of like narratives and things, where it's like, no, I would way rather get ahead of something than have to be on the defense of like being reactive about it. You know, like I would rather control the narrative and how we're talking about it than now all of a sudden you've said something and I need to come, you know, like react to it and try and spin it when it's already been kind of framed in this way.
Absolutely. Framing is so important in the influence world. Yeah. It's not, what did Cialdini say? It's not hocus, it's not pocus, it's focus. I love
that. I love that.
Is that great or what? He's
so great.
I know.
It's so great. And I think like a lot of what we're talking about is like with the accountability and with knowing the weight of the words and with that kind of intentionality is almost just like watching our language and like how can we do that? Like how
we watch our language. It's like another one of my pillars. Robert Cialdini, who we were just talking about, I think he says in his book Persuasion that the psycholinguistic research that has occurred shows that the main function of language is not to express, it's not to decide things, but to influence other people. That's why we are wired. I mean, think about it. Like I said at the very beginning of our talk today, if everything in our life comes down to the quality of how well we communicate, then it is getting another person to agree to us, to buy from us, to hire us, to embrace our idea, to take our deal, to decide for us, to vote for us at higher levels, right? Mm-hmm. All of this applies in all of these situations, these ideas. So there are things that you can do when you're watching your language to respond to you, and what you were just saying, like, because that's one of the things that I espouse is that we have to watch our language. Words are so incredibly powerful. Choice of words is really incredibly powerful. Listening to who we're speaking to and using their language back at them. Like it's called mirroring and repetition. Like the actors will repeat. They'll do exercises when you're studying the Sanford Meisner acting technique, which I did, where, yeah, you would love it.
I'm so interested.
When I see you in real life, we're going to practice it. I'll teach you how to do it and we're going to practice it.
Yes, please.
Basically, what it is like you take two actors, you stand them face to face, and they get really clear on their presence, on their emotional presence, right? And then one of them will take a word and say the word, and then the other one will repeat the same word back. And so what they're doing is they're repeating, and through the repetition, they're feeling each other's feelings, and the emotions are being felt and are being transmitted, and ideally, ultimately, to an audience. Wow. And one of the things that I learned from studying and doing this technique, I went to the Sanford Meisner acting school, was that you can be communicating to another person who's repeating what you're saying, and you will feel what they're saying. The emotional content of their message is what you will be feeling and what you will be responding to. And when you're doing the exercise back and forth between each other, and then at some point, an actor can change the word. And sometimes, depending on what they are thinking and feeling when they say the word, the entire chemistry of what's happening between the actors changes. And you would love it, Michaela.
Oh my, that feels so powerful.
It's incredibly powerful. I did this for almost 2 years, twice a week, for like an hour at a time. It's the core foundational exercise of the Sanford Meisner acting method. And one of the things that it showed me was that you don't need a script. If you know like where you're going emotionally with what you're saying and you're communicating with another human being, you can influence by repeating their words. It relates directly to watching your language. So one of the things that I like to do, and I'm sure you do it naturally all the time too, and you just aren't aware of it, but super communicators do this all the time, is they repeat some of what the other person said. So recently, Charles Duhigg wrote a book called Super Communicators, and he talks about this concept. He talks about repetition of some of the language that another person is stating to you as a way of building rapport. So language is a great way to build credibility, build rapport, get people to like you, feel an emotional connection to you. All of these concepts are related. The people that come out of the FBI world who are used to interrogating and eliciting testimony from other people, like lawyers get no training in this stuff. We're just expected to be naturally good at it, right? Or go to take some courses, like a few MCLEs here and there, and be able to cross-examine and get what we want, right? No, I mean, there is next level stuff to know about how to do this well. And so the FBI negotiators like Chris Voss, he talks about this too, mirroring and repetition. So isn't it interesting that in these different disciplines, these different scholars, these different people, they're aware of this technique and they're talking about this technique out there. But lawyers, you understand it naturally because you're gifted and you're a rock star, right? I understood it somewhat naturally, but I had to go to acting school and practice a lot to really cement it so that it's second nature to me. So now whenever I go like to the grocery store and I'm talking to a clerk. This is what I'm practicing with a total stranger all the time. And that helps me get over my fear of speaking to a stranger, because all of us are naturally, okay, some of us are more extroverted than others, but I think it's really common for us. We care about how we're being perceived. We care that another person's going to like us and feel connected to us, especially when we're doing our jobs. So these are concepts that we can keep in mind as we go about our daily life, practicing building the muscle, so that when we're actually in the situation where we want somebody to agree with us, we want to influence, we want to shift the outcome in our favor, we're able to do that.
Yeah. It's like a muscle we're like exercising, because it's one thing to know something or to understand something, but it's a whole other level to actually put it into practice.
A whole other level.
And so I just think that that's so cool. Like, I just love talking to you so much for all of the reasons, but things where it's just kind of like, God, like, you make things make sense in such a digestible way. And I could pick your brain for hours. And I'm just so appreciative of this work that you're doing and the fact that you spend time just like educating and empowering people through this knowledge. And so, I mean, I know that we've made kind of like halfway through this influence amplifier method. And unfortunately, this is going to conclude part 1. But when people tune back in for part 2, where we go into the second half, I know it's going to be just like an incredibly empowering educational conversation. And I just can't wait to have you back on this podcast forever.
Oh, well, I can't wait to be back on this podcast. And notice what I just did. I mirrored you. I repeated some of the words that you just said.
I hadn't even noticed it. Right. That was so natural.
That's right. And you still want to have me back. So that
I do. I really do. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for being here and in this space and the work that you do. And I cannot wait for part 2.
I can't wait to deliver part 2. It's going to be fun. I love talking to you, Michaela, anytime.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening. Until next time. Bye. We did it.